I think Donald Trump is certainly trying to save face after, if you remember, a record 35-day government shutdown over this demand for a border wall, a tremendous political haggling. And in the last few hours, I think the right-wing commentators in America got to him. There was still a lot of talk that if he signed this bill produced by Congress, this bipartisan agreement, it would have been a humiliating defeat for him. He would have caved in on his border wall demand. And so the long-awaited, long-speculated moment, he is indeed reaching for these emergency powers. I think some critics will wonder, why did he not just do that several weeks ago and avoid the pain of the shutdown and the political costs? But it's come to that last resort now. The emergency powers are likely to be challenged in court. Nancy Pelosi was asked about that, and she said it's certainly an option. In that clip you heard, I thought it was also telling that Mitch McConnell, the Republican Senate Majority Leader, said he would support Trump's move to declare an emergency. And that is certainly one of the big questions now. Will Republicans get on board and back the president on this? It's a good sign for him that McConnell is saying he will, and it's just a case of whether Mitch McConnell can get Republican senators to go along with it. But in a sense, it's one ending, but it's also, I think, the beginning of a long, drawn-out legal battle that will at least allow Trump to say to his supporters he's tried everything and he's fighting tooth and nail to get this wall built.
As ever with Trump, it's a multifaceted situation. There are different angles coming off every action that he makes and everything that he sanctions. But David, in terms of what happens next, the possible repercussions, you talked about Nancy Pelosi with the possible legal challenge, and obviously Trump will be able to say to his base, as you say, that he did all he possibly could. But beyond that, what are the likely repercussions going to be, do you think, in terms of what's happening on the border, what happens to the people coming to the border, and of course those who get across?
And yeah, I mean, first, I think important to remember, as Pelosi touched on there, there's deep political division over is there a crisis or not, and the Trump and Republican rhetoric is that this is indeed an emergency, that violent criminals and gangs are pouring over that border and must be stopped. Democrats taking a very different line, and Pelosi made a point in her press conference. She said the real national emergency is what we're marking the first anniversary of today, which is the Parkland school shooting and gun control in America. So I think we're going to continue to see that partisan divide play out, as we also did earlier this week when Trump had a rally near the border and Democrats had a competing rally. It will go on in the courts. In the meantime, the border will continue to be at least partially guarded, and there'll be debate over how serious that situation is and whether, in fact, the real crisis is a humanitarian one. But I think now we're in a situation where everything must be seen through the prism of the 2020 presidential election, and both sides are really gearing up for that. Democrats who are already declaring themselves running for office will use this to say Trump is manufacturing a crisis and using emergency powers rather as an authoritarian ruler would. But Trump will indeed fire up his base and say, look, vote for me again, and this time I really will get the wall built.
David